It's 2020 and we're celebrating a new year, thinking of those resolutions for the year to come. However, on the other side of the world, the news isn't so great. There's a new outbreak of an unknown virus in China. In the city of Wuhan, those who are becoming ill seem to have a link to a local fish market. People are becoming seriously ill, and cases continue to rise and spread. The World Health Organization then announces that this is a new coronavirus. The news that no one wanted to hear, that the outbreak is a global pandemic. Testing ramps up around the world. Governments provide guidance to the best they can. Travel plans are halted. Despite these measures, more and more people become ill. We see our first case in the bubble of St. Andrews. Then,
we will beat the coronavirus, and we will beat it together. And therefore, I urge you, at this moment of national emergency, to stay at home, protect our NHS, and save lives. Thank you.
For everyone, you must stay at home unless it is absolutely essential to go out, and that includes working from home wherever possible. Life should not feel normal for you right now, so if it is, then you are not doing the right things, and I want to ask you today to please put that right.
On the positive side, I'm much better able to pace my work through my day to my own energy levels. I take breaks when I need them or when my computer RSI guard program tells me I need one, and I get up and move around. I no longer have sort of fixed tea breaks, lunch breaks. I take breaks when my body needs one. There are far fewer interruptions to my day, and I'm able to wear comfortable clothes. It doesn't really matter what you're wearing on the bottom half when your meetings are all online. And I'm saving at least an hour a day in traveling time, as well as having my lunch hour at home so that I can do things that I want to do around here. The negatives, well, obviously the lack of interaction with colleagues, not having access to the physical resources that I was used to. I do a lot of referencing of documents, and I thought I brought home everything I needed in March, but I didn't. And another one was seeing other environments. At present, I'm around my home and garden all the time. Previously, traveling to and from St. Andrews, I was watching what was going on in the fields. I was noticing changes to, buildings, houses, gardens, stuff like that, just on my way in and out of work, which I am not doing at present. The hardest part was being unable to travel to see loved ones. My mother is 92 in a care facility in the US, and that not being able to see her because she can't use the technology anymore to even do online meetings, really, really hard. Talking to one of my daughters who was in a third floor flat with a 4-year-old and a 14-year-old and no adults for company for weeks and weeks and weeks. Not being able to support her, help her, not being able to hug my kids, grandkids, and not being able to support both my working daughters by helping with childcare in those circumstances. Another really, really difficult bit was missing the funeral of my spiritual teacher and a friend of 36 years, and not being able to be there for his wife and kids, again, whom we'd known all their lives, some of them. Doing eulogy by Zoom was difficult. It was better than nothing, but it was really difficult. One of my sisters in the States was hospitalized twice in March last year for breathing difficulties, and the COVID testing was very, very in its infancy, and it took 2 weeks to know whether she had it, and therefore for them to determine the right treatment. It turned out she didn't. She had flu, pleurisy, and pneumonia, but she didn't have COVID. But at the time, it was a very, very anxious time, and I couldn't even speak to her because her breathing was so bad that she couldn't talk on the phone. So it was like being helpless and far, far away. One of the other challenges I found is a very, very close friend who works in the elder care sector in administration, and she was actually terrified every day going into work, especially at the beginning when there wasn't suitable PPE available to care home workers, and not everyone was taking what she considered to be sufficient precautions. She cared so very, very much about the residents and worried on their behalf all the time that the virus might enter the facility and kill them. Our spiritual life is nourished by gatherings of like-minded people. In normal circumstances, we would have traveled to or been hosting gatherings at least once a month, and most of those heart friends are not local, so not seeing them has been incredibly difficult. We've all had to explore spiritual life online with Zoom and Teams and so on, but it really, really isn't the same being in the physical space, sharing spiritual experience with other people in the same space. There just is no online equivalent. The core was a reassessment of time, especially early on when we didn't know how long it would last. There was an easing in some of the sense of pressure of getting certain things done. When we found we couldn't get ingredients or materials we needed, or resources or people, we learned to take a breath and just say, okay, it can wait. It has to. And we found alternatives, or just set whatever it was to one side. I found a lot of minor repairs around the house getting done because I was here and noticed them, clothes getting mended, etc., etc. My house tidier than it's ever been before, because being here in daylight, you notice dusting needs done, you do things more frequently, and during work breaks, you can take 5 minutes to set some washing on or do a vacuum of a room or something like that. My garden, never been so organized. The incredibly good weather we had just at the beginning of lockdown in March and April really helped with that, and it also made it easier for everybody to get used to queuing outside shops and things like that, because the weather was not blowing a hoolie or pouring with rain, so we got used to those new processes in reasonable weather. I haven't had a single cold, illness, or flu since lockdown started. That's a year now. Normally, freshers flu when students come back in September, etc. Nothing. No contagious diseases at all. I actually had kind of an epiphany on Easter Sunday after a month of trying to settle into patterns and restrictions. The Nina Simone song, Feeling Good, came into my head when I was having a cup of tea and looking out at the garden. The chorus, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I kind of realized that with all the changed circumstances that were being forced on us all, it was an opportunity to change patterns in my life that had been really, really entrenched. So I changed my exercise regime, started walking every day. And during that also gave the opportunity to notice the daily changes in the plants and wildlife nearby. I revised my attitude to work frustrations. Instead of reaching for my secret stash of chocolate and biscuits when something annoyed or frustrated me in the office, I gave myself a 10-minute break and went outside and weeded the garden or pruned something or just walked around and had a look and reset my mood without the calories. So the whole experience has been really healthy for me. Being in the house meant I could start the preparation of better, healthier evening meals during my lunch break or tea break. And we've been eating much healthier, more seasonal food with ingredients fresh out of the garden during much of the year. I am, in fact, a lockdown loser. So far, I've lost over 2 stone, and I hope to keep going. I would really like to continue to work from home. I feel happier, more productive, significantly healthier. It took about a month to settle into, but now that I'm used to it, I really, really would prefer to continue. And I wouldn't mind, though it is uncomfortable, for masks to remain more or less compulsory on all forms of public transport. Hearing somebody coughing or sneezing on a bus or a train or a plane has always made me concerned, as for my own health as well as for those nearby. And now that we know it stops the spread of respiratory illness or vastly reduces it, in circumstances where strangers are being forced together, it would be courteous to keep doing it. Well, actually, if I could, I'd go back a month or so before lockdown, January, and I would not have sold my home office desk to a colleague. I changed that room around and we bought a double bed instead, and I sold the desk. And now when I see her online in meetings, I try not to be frustrated and knowing she's sitting at a very, very good office desk that would have suited me. I found, before lockdown, I had a laptop, so I wasn't really using the desk. But it took me 3 different office setups at home over a month, dining tables, spare tables in spare bedrooms, retrieving a table of a better height from another space, and rearranging another room before I got as good an office setup as I'd had before I sold the desk. The other thing I would do, actually, is tell myself to just take a breath and appreciate something every day that you might not have noticed with the frantic pace of life before lockdown.